So it's kind of funny because the last time I did one of these, it was for the founder. And I don't know, it's just something about these movies that are based off something like super iconic that it's like the origin story, and it's just there's just like this great feeling, despite how corrupt both of these companies are. When you see like those logos appear up or those iconic songs from like the Walt Disney movie or just like, yeah, and even with like McDonald's, I mean, you know, it's a horrible place, but it's a very unhealthy place. But I don't know, I loved McDonald's when I was a kid. There's something nice about seeing that. There is something very interesting about seeing that. Seeing that. It is like, it does almost give you kind of like this family feeling. If that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's for you to determine. But I've seen movies that I love this year so much more than these two. So much more. I think The Founder's like a 7 out of 10. And I will say Saving Mr. Banks was better. I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10. I almost want to give it a 9, but I don't think it's like worth that because it's, a lot of people say this about Disney films, and I think it's true. I think a lot of them are extremely well made, and they have a ton of effort put into them, and they have like a huge crew working on all of them. But I don't think you can deny that, you know, the directors of these movies, it's not to say they're not talented. It's not to say that they don't know what they're doing. They're all competent. I don't think there's any Disney, like people who've directed Disney movies who just like have no skills at all, because they always come out good. Although I do question sometimes how much power the director actually has, just thinking back to Marvel and what they did with Edgar Wright. Because like I haven't even seen Ant-Man. I can't judge it until I see it, obviously, but I hear people say that, you know, like, you know, he got fired from it, and as a result, it was a very uninteresting movie visually. Not to say that like there was nothing cool about it at all. It's just to say, like, if you compare it to like an Edgar Wright movie, it doesn't even feel like he was ever part of it to begin with. But with Disney movies, it's just like they release some very serviceable movies, and they're very good with characters, and they're very good with designs, and they're very good with their sets, and they do a lot of great work. But when it comes to their cinematography and their directing, there's nothing especially interesting about it. And I have to say, the last two movies I saw prior to Saving Mr. Banks was Moonrise Kingdom, which is a Wes Anderson film. Great director, one of my favorite, probably top 10. And Syndicate New York by Charlie Kaufman. It's the first movie of his I've ever seen. I know that was his debut film as a director, so maybe he doesn't have that many out. But it was 2008, so I'm sure there's something else that he has out right now. And those two movies just excel in directing and the crazy stuff they do with it. Moonrise Kingdom is my least favorite Wes Anderson film right now, because the only other two I've seen is Grand Budapest Hotel and Fantastic Mr. Fox, and some short films he's made. I know there's like another big one I'm missing, and I'm really excited for his new one that's coming out. It's another stop motion like Fantastic Mr. Fox, and those two movies were wonderful. The Grand Budapest Hotel I saw this year, and I can't believe I missed the chance to see that in theaters. And Fantastic Mr. Fox I saw like a year or two ago. And yeah, just great movies. Loved both of them. Moonrise Kingdom wasn't as good, but it was still very visually interesting. And it was a good movie. It was a cute movie. I just don't think it goes beyond that. It was, you know, it was a very simple story that he wanted to tell, but he has likable characters. It's a fun hour and 30 minutes, and the directing is very well done. The shots are very unique. And Saving Mr. Banks feels like it's like such a bigger story because of the impact the movie Mary Poppins had on, you know, on everything, the entertainment industry. But looking at something like Moonrise Kingdom, a way more simple story, it still feels like a better movie just because there's a lot more unique stuff being done with the cinematography there. And every single shot in Saving Mr. Banks looks good. And one thing I will praise it for is I think the colors just looked wonderful in that movie. It really did give it like this majestic feel to it. And I mean, you know, you can say it's a little bit corny, it's a little whimsical, but I just thought it looked beautiful. Like throughout the entire thing, it wasn't that the shots were bad, it's that it's standard. It's your standard shots. It looks like the shots that you learn about when you're in school. It's just all of the basic. They don't really do anything that ambitious with it. They don't do anything that creative with it. And a lot of critics like Ralph the Movie Maker, Your Movie Sucks on YouTube, used to comment on stuff like that all the time, and I never understood why. I was like, that movie looked good. I don't know why you're criticizing the cinematography. But the more I see some of these other directors and what they're doing, it's like, yeah, it is almost a little distracting. You know what? There's nothing terribly wrong with having standard cinematography. I just think it holds a movie back a little bit. I'm not going to be like, you know, and I love those two, Adam and Ralph. I'm not going to be like them though, where it like ruins the movie for me or like holds it back so much. But I can at least acknowledge, with a better director, yeah, you could have a good movie become a great movie. But I know I'm like talking about like so many other movies without actually talking about Saving Mr. Banks. That's why it's a thoughts-on video. It's not like a really well thought out review. I just saw it right now. Now I'm kind of just giving my thoughts now. So now that I kind of got that out of the way, that's all I really have to say about it is, yeah, I think with Disney movies, some of the old animated ones really did like know how to get interest in angles. They're live action movies. I never see that. It always feels like very standard, very, very standard. And that's not to say it's not visually impressive. These movies look beautiful and like the sets are outstanding. And even in this one where the set was just like mainly taking place in this one room, it just still worked. It still had like this warm feeling to it. The best thing about this movie was without a doubt the performances. Like, I swear to God, Tom Hanks is Walt Disney. I love Tom Hanks, and I kind of liked the idea of him playing Disney, but I was kind of thinking when I watched the movie, is it going to be distracting? Am I going to be thinking of his other characters? I, like, quickly forgot it was Tom Hanks. Like, I felt like I was watching Walt Disney. He is such a character. Like, I swear to God, I want to see more of him playing Walt. I don't think this would happen because Tom Hanks is kind of a bigger actor, but I'd love to see like a freaking Netflix series just dealing with all of the stuff that Walt Disney did, both like some of the really charming things he did and some of the more controversial things he did, because they did have controversy in this movie. They didn't sugarcoat him completely, and they probably sugarcoated him a little bit. Disney is not gonna, dive into some of the, really eye-opening things about him, but they do mainly focus on the charming side, but they do show him drink, they do show him smoke, they do show him curse. I think it only says I think it only swears like once, and it's just him saying damn, but still, it's weird seeing Walt Disney do that, and it's amazing that Disney would allow that, and I actually have to give them props for that, like, considering all of the controversy. I think something just recently happened with, like, Los Angeles Times, too, LA Times, with, them releasing an article, and then Disney said, well, you guys aren't allowed to review our movies anymore, ha 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 ha, like they weren't allowed to get press screenings anymore. And then I don't know the whole story about that. That's just a recent example. Yeah, they're still doing sketchy things, but I have to give them props for that they were willing to show like the face of Disney, Walt Disney himself, and show him in a somewhat negative light in certain scenes. And I mean drinking and drinking a little bit of alcohol and saying a curse word here and there, that's not super bad. With Walt Disney, he even kind of acknowledges that smoking's a horrible habit in the movie with the one scene where he's doing it. But they do show some other sketchy things with him. They do show that, like, it has to be his way. He can be understanding, but when it really comes down to it, it's what he wants, and he's gonna get what he wants. Like, there's this scene it's almost like, it just gave me chills a little bit. It was not even in a good way. It was just, someone comes in with some of the notes that, the author has, which I'm sorry, I cannot remember her name right now. It's bad that I can't remember her name. It was like said so many times throughout the movie. That was even like a running thing for a lot of the characters, how they're going to address her. I just remember her being called Mrs. most by the limo driver named Ralph. Funny, I can remember his name. It was said once in the movie, and I can't remember hers. Bad with names. Horrible with names. I think like there's the Sherman brothers, and I don't even remember their first names. That's like, those are the only names from this movie I remember upon rewatch, and I'll remember names better. But yeah, like, oh, now I'm losing my train of thought of where I was going with that originally, because I started talking about the fucking names. That is what these thoughts on videos are. I hope that you're enjoying yourself. God damn it, what was I talking about before? I completely lost my train of thought. Okay, so, yeah, that's right. They were, like, all the notes that she had for Walt Disney, and one of them was that Mr. Banks had a mustache, like how Walt Disney wanted him to have a mustache, and she said she doesn't want the mustache, and Walt's like, oh yeah, no, that was one of my requests, and she said, yeah, and she wants to know why, and he says, because it was one of my requests. Like, just repeats himself, but now in a more stern voice, and it's just, ooh, this, I don't want to mess with this guy. I feel like if it was anyone other than her, it wouldn't have went over so well with him. That's like the vibe I get. But they do show a nice side of him too. But like, then there's also just him not inviting her to the premiere at the end. And on one hand, I might sound like a scumbag for this. You kind of understand where he's coming from with it, because like she was known to have outbursts on things she didn't like while they were working on the movie, and I guess he didn't want her to do that at the premiere, and I get that, but it's still just such a, it's just such a, it's, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of scummy, you know, just this person who's a huge part of the movie and don't invite her to the premiere, like, especially after like that really heartwarming speech he gives her at the end where he literally travels to England to see her. And after that, he doesn't invite her. Like, this clearly meant a lot to her, and I'm glad she ends up going. I wonder if that actually happened. That is one thing that does bother me about this movie too, though, is that I do question how historically accurate it is. And I understand, like, spicing things up a little bit, I'm fine with that. You got to make the movie interesting. I'm sure there were plenty of, you know, slow moments while at like the actual events going on. Not that there wasn't enough interesting stuff there, because obviously there was. And they even show some like little recordings, some of the tape recordings at the end during the credits, which I loved. It made it like you could watch it until like they show old pictures of them making the movie during the credits. They start playing audio of her, of like the tapes that she was recording. Because I like when she started doing that in the movie, I had no idea if that was really a thing she was doing or not. Apparently it was, because they're playing the tapes at the end of the movie, and that was such a nice touch, because again, it made you stay for the credits. It made you watch everything. That's one thing that this movie excelled at. It's just like, you know, I was like checking how long it was, like, oh, 2 hours and 5 minutes, but probably like an hour and 55 minutes, because I'm sure 10 minutes of that is going to be like credits. But I stuck around for the credits because they gave you a reason to stick around for the credits. I love movies that can do that, by the way. I love that they didn't have to just throw a song in at the end. They could like, they did something super unique with that, and I loved that. That was excellent. But there's like things throughout the movie I'm wondering, did this really happen or not? And my reason for this distrust is that I know they lied about the ending. Because they don't, you know, I think they were trying to be subtle about it. I think they were trying to, like, get away with it. Because they don't make it 100% clear what her thoughts on the movie are. But they seem to be positive, and that is not the truth. And I don't like that. I don't like how this movie is very honest in some areas, especially with Walt Disney. But then for the ending, they have to pretend that she likes the movie. Why do you have to pretend that she likes the movie? The movie would have worked still, even if you... Because, like, again, it's subjectional. You could say that her reaction to this movie is more so, like, the positive reaction's more of remembering the past. They even do show flashbacks as the movie plays out of, like, what actually happened versus what's going on in the movie. And you could argue that it's just kind of taking her down memory lane, and that's why she's getting this reaction. So you can argue, but it really seems like she's enjoying the movie. And I think that's kind of fucked up. You know, it's a good, and again, I love the movie. I'm not like saying boycott this film because of that one detail, but it is something that I noticed, and it is something that bothered me going in, because I already knew that they did that. And because I knew that they did that, I kind of spent the entire movie questioning whether certain things were true or not. But yeah, going back to what I was saying before, the performances in this movie, like, it's the highlight of the movie because every single one of them was good. The Sherman brothers were very likable. The secretary was very likable. Walt Disney was, like, just, he is such a character. Tom Hanks, again, did such a great job playing him. I want so much more of him playing that character. I really do. I would pay to see that. That was great. That was like that really got me invested. That really is one of the things that sold me on the movie. But of course the main character is really good too, and I feel bad that I cannot remember her name. I think it is bad that I cannot remember her name, but I do not remember her name, but she was, you know, she's the star of the movie. She was wonderful. The actress's name who played her was like Emma something. Again, like, bad with names, horrible with names. The limo driver was also just wonderful, very, very likable. Yeah, I actually know the actor who played him was Giovanni. And yeah, very likable character, very likable chemistry that the two have together. The flashback scenes, I think, were very well done. I have to agree with Doug Walker on his review that it does feel like you're watching another movie. But he says, in his review, he also says that, you know, you could say that since it's from her point of view, it works. And I do. Since it's from her point of view, and I think that the tone being different makes a lot of sense. It is a little bit weird cut into those scenes because it does feel like you're watching a different movie. But under the context, I think it works. So I'm not saying that's a problem. I like that. The flashback scenes were good. I definitely preferred the stuff that was taking place in modern times. But the flashback stuff was not bad. It was extremely well shot. It was extremely... I say extremely well shot. Like, again, it's still standard cinematography, but it's impactful. It worked. What they were going for worked. So, yeah, that's mainly my thoughts on this movie. Again, it's just with these, Moonrise Kingdom and Syndicate New York. These, especially if Syndicate New York, I'd be in here for like 5 hours analyzing that movie. I've already seen it twice. I loved it. But it also. I'm gonna be talking about that movie sooner or later, but probably near the end of this year. But God, I can't beat Your Movie Sucks analysis of it. It's like 5 parts in right now. It's like an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 40 minutes long now, and it's still not over yet. He's still releasing parts for it. But I mean, I'm definitely going to make something. I'd say, like, if you're interested in something with that movie, and again, I know this is Saving Mr. Banks, and I'm naming a random movie, you might have zero interest in that, but check out his stuff, because he sums up that movie great. But I don't need to try to be like his, because you're supposed to interpret that movie in your own way, and I hear people say they've watched it 20 times, and it's a different experience every time, and that was what it was like for me, because my second viewing was definitely different than my first viewing, and I don't know, like... I don't know if I'm ready to call it my favorite movie of all time, but it's high up for best movie I saw this year. Obviously not counting movies that were actually released in 2017. Not even one of them would be on my top 10. Not that there were some good movies this year, but I've been watching some like older films. And they're good. It's good stuff. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Saving Mr. Banks. I'd probably rate it an 8 out of 10. I think that the directing and the lies hold it back from being a 10 out of 10. Character-wise, it could easily be a 10 out of 10 because all of them were good. There wasn't like that one annoying character or that one character who felt pointless. All of them were good. It was an extremely likable movie, but like I said, it didn't shy away from some of the more controversial stuff going on during that movie. And seriously, if we can get more Tom Hanks as Walt Disney, that would be the best thing ever, because that was one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life. I thought that was excellent. Whew. So that's my thoughts on Saving Mr. Banks. Maybe I'll just keep doing these on movies that are based on real people. Like, I'm gonna go see The Disaster Artist soon. That's in a few selected theaters around me, but I'm just gonna wait for it to go worldwide. I think this Friday it goes worldwide. And I'm looking forward to that one. Maybe I'll do a thoughts on that. But yeah, I'm awkward with ending videos, so I hope that you enjoyed this 18 minutes of a very unorganized, not very well thought out video. I will be releasing part 2 of my Shut Up Cartoons analysis very soon, and hopefully some new stuff as well. I have a lot of ideas for this channel right now. I'm just trying to organize it to like what seems like what will fit best on this channel, especially with the crowd that I brought in from both the BoJack video and the childhood trauma video, especially the childhood trauma video. I know that's why most of you are here, and I'm trying to get back to that. I'm trying to find something that you guys will like. And I'm slow because I really want to release something that works best. The Shut Up Cartoons analysis isn't really one of those, but it's something I wanted to do for a long time, so I'm doing it. And this is just the best channel to do it on. I'm very proud of part 2 so far. I think it's a good video, but I know only a couple people are going to watch it. But hopefully that'll go well. And yeah, I'm going to end this now. There are actually people staring at me right now because I've been talking to myself for a while. Anyway, I will, I'll be releasing more stuff. I'm an awkward person, I'm sorry. Have a good day, night, or whatever time you're watching this video. Peace.